by Teams. And obviously messages like this that come through, I just modify it accordingly, and I'm going to take one day next week and just upload everything onto your records. Dana has a question. Please, Dana.
So you speak of attendance, so correct me if I'm wrong, what you're actually saying is Teams automatically picks up who's in the group and who's not.
Yes, at the end of a session, I actually get an Excel spreadsheet that I can download with everybody that has attended or didn't. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm in the good books. Thanks, sir.
Every time you check in, you're in the good books. Yes. It is obviously, I don't know if you've actually been there for the whole session, but at least you're reflected as present on the register. Yes. People, just some feedback from questions that that was raised yesterday. Two things. I know there was a question related to the request to be available and remain available for at least an hour after you've conducted your exam. So there could be you could receive calls from Stadio just to check in. Exactly how that's going to be administered, I followed up with them as well, and they said that as the instructions that came with the exam timetable indicated, exactly how that's going to be done, they will communicate with you. And as I said yesterday, when you hear it, we hear it at the same time. I will still continue, however, to be that soundboard if you are not sure how particular arrangements work, for me to clarify that. And if I don't have the answer myself, to find out from the people who have made that decision to clarify it for you. Another question, yes, Dana?
Sorry, sir. Yeah, that is what I've been wanting to ask about the calls. Do they call you on your cell phone? Is it an incoming call on Teams? How do they go about? Because I know when I do my exams, I put my phone on flight mode because I tend to get a lot of messages.
Dana, I don't know the answer to that, and I've actually, as I said, they will provide us with that information, exactly how that's going to be administered. I don't know yet, and I also just refer you again to the information that was part of your timetable that indicated that something like this will be in place. Exactly how it's going to administer it, those arrangements, they will inform us. So do not worry about that. I would take that off my list of worries about things that you cannot affect or change, but just be reassured again that we will inform you. You will be informed once all those procedures have been clarified. Okay. The other thing that we followed up, that I followed up from yesterday, was regarding how do we manage any sort of technical interventions during your exam. I referred to you, or I reminded you that in your instructions of the exam, right at the top of the page, it will indicate to you a WhatsApp number to contact, as well as an email address to contact if you're experiencing any technical issues during your exam. I know that we find ourselves in the middle of a load shedding wave, for lack of a better word, and that the status of the load shedding changes can change almost on an hourly basis, based on this week's experience in that regard. But again, the message is quite clear. We are in no position. I don't know exactly how they're going to address it, in a sense of, do they give you extra time? Whatever those arrangements are, the people who are manning that specific designated number to attend to that would be the ones that will guide you through it. Just be reassured that you will not in any way in any way suffer as a result of something that was out of your control. The only thing that I would like to bring to your attention again and reiterate, and I'll repeat it for all the sessions that's left. Contact that number immediately. And once you have that number, which I'll post in an announcement separately and prior to your exam, end of next week basically, write that number down. If you haven't got it, those are the numbers that you sit down that must be next to you and not just accessible through your devices on your phone or on your computer. Because if there's an interruption and you cannot continue with your test, but the information is also on the screen, it's not going to help you. Write it down on a notepad as well as the email address. I would recommend you phone the WhatsApp number immediately. Don't wait till tomorrow morning and then phone them and say, yeah, yesterday while I was doing the test, this happened. No, phone them immediately, because they they will, and that's why they're there. They will react to it immediately as well. Okay, that's the only information I can confirm following discussions I've had with the people who could give me answers to this. Right, any other questions at this stage? Confirming again that your exam will be done on Monday, the 28th of June, and that you have a 4-hour window between 11 in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you to complete it. Therefore, I suggest you start it at 11 and definitely don't start it later than 12, because then you are actually stealing your own time. Right. There was a question yesterday as well on access to old exam papers. I made it clear that the Stadio policy is that we are not sharing any old exam papers with you. That's the bad news. The good news is I found a database of questions, essay questions, multiple choice questions, short answer questions that we will work through next week. I found it on a database directly from the publishers of your textbook. So it is quite nice for us to work through some of those questions. You get used to. I'll produce a slideshow reflecting all these questions, so you can get used to the way in which the questions are structured, as well as use that as a form of revision. So we are going to answer those questions. We're going to discuss those questions and not just look at the construction of the questions. Okay, is that going to help you at all?
Yes, sir.
Good to hear. Right, so now that everybody who's been awake has fallen back to sleep again, or maybe left to get some beverages and join, what I've done for today's session is prepare a revision to different slideshows, which I'll upload this afternoon with the recording. And that will be on the first 2 chapters. Because the first 2 chapters summarize why we're doing this, why marketing is important, what marketing is, and to understand the environment in which we operate, because that sort of prepares us for the rest of the chapters that lie ahead. And to ensure, like I said yesterday, we get a better picture of where everything fits in. So we do see the bigger picture and not just individual chapters that we do not know exactly always how they link. So that's going to be part of these 2 sessions that we do today. We do the sessions and we also refer to where they fit into the other chapters later on, because this is basically the foundation. This is like building a house. The house is going to fall down if it's not built in the proper, correct order. In other words, you need to dig the trenches first. You need to lay the foundations first before you start building the walls, before you put the windows in and the roof on. Okay, if it's done in a different order, it's not going to work. We want to see a completed house at the end of our revision preparation before you go to exams. So you have the best clarity that there can be on exactly how everything is structured. Okay, we are doing, and I probably have asked you this question at the start of this module, believe it, 10 weeks ago. What is marketing? What is everything? Why is everybody so excited? What's the whole process? I want today's session to for you to inform me of what you understand it to be before we actually look at what it is. Okay, so for starters, anybody else? Is the definition of what marketing is that clear to everybody? Because it is important. It is important. Otherwise, it's like if you don't know why you're doing something, you're not 100% committed to do it. I am like that. If I don't know what the purpose is of a particular action, you're going to find me, I'm going to be reluctant to do it in the first place, and you're going to find that I'm not motivated to really do it. If I see the outcome, in other words, is there a reward? Or is there punishment if I don't do it? Those are usually two good motivators for us to actually then do it. Marketing works exactly the same. Why are we doing marketing? If we don't know why we're doing marketing or what marketing as a process entails, it's going to be very difficult for us to understand pricing strategies and distribution channels and marketing channels and marketing of services, and why products and services are distinguished through 5 different characteristics: separability, intangibility, perishability, lack of ownership. Why the 4 P's of marketing? Then it's just loose concepts. And the important thing for us is to go right back to the start and say, right, if we understand what the process of marketing entails, it's going to help us to understand a lot of the other things. So marketing is to anticipate what the needs of the customers are going to be, to try and satisfy the needs of these customers. We do that through an exchange process that has mutual benefits for you, the customer, and for the company, because we're in business to make a profit. Otherwise, we won't be in business. From that definition, the most important aspect is customer satisfaction. We do all our marketing efforts to ensure that the customer is satisfied. Our initial research that referred to specifically trying to understand chapter 3, how the consumer makes his or her decisions, what influences the decisions that the consumer make, external factors, internal factors like what motivates them, the attitude, their perceptions about a product or a brand, the values that they have, the reference groups that they are exposed to that influence their decisions. If we do not know that, the whole process becomes futile. So chapter 3 deals with that. Let me see, I've got my textbook here. Let me just page to the index. What will flow from the second session today, when we look at the environment in which our business functions and we as marketers operate, is that we have to keep in mind what our competitors do. We know we can't control that. We know we can't control chapter 3, the customer. We can't control our competitors or influence our competitors, chapter 4. So what we do is we try and use all these information through the pest analysis and the SWOT analysis that we'll do in chapter 2 in the second session today, to gather information to help us and prepare us better to anticipate, as it's on the screen, to anticipate what the customer wants. The closer we get to knowing what the customer wants, the better we're off, because we will then produce a product or sell a product to them that will satisfy that need, which is the secondary part of the marketing function. The most important one, but it's not going to happen if we do not put enough effort into anticipating it. How do we do that? We do that chapter 6 and chapter 7 by segmenting the market, the bigger market, into smaller chunks, so we can actually have people with similar characteristics and interests and buying behaviors and expectations in smaller segments. And then we decide to target a particular segment or more than one segment based on our capacity to deliver. The entire marketing effort evolves around the marketing concept, the 4 P's of the marketing mix. That we do in chapter 8 and 9, and 8, 9, 10, and 8, 9, and 10, yes. When we're dealing with our products, we're dealing with how do we get the products from the manufacturer to the customer. That's the distribution or the marketing. That's the P that refers to the place. And then we do chapter 11 and chapter 13 that specifically deals with the communication. In other words, the different forms of communicating with the customer. That's the third P, that's promotion. How do we communicate? What is the combination of elements that we include in our marketing communications mix so we can get the message most efficiently to the correct customer in the target markets that we have, or the segments that we have targeted? And then also, none of this is of any value if the customer doesn't know what he's going to pay. Remember the exchange process that we refer to in the definition. It must have a value for the customer. The value lies in the fact that the customer gets the product that will satisfy his need, but they must see it as valuable. As I've used the example before, somebody who has spent a week in the desert without food and water is going to be tired, he's going to be hungry. If you offer him something like a 25,000 Rand watch or expensive, even a car for that matter, at that point, it's probably not going to be what that customer needs. What he or she needs is probably to immediately, not to die, to maybe later on get the opportunity to have a car and drive a car, is that they need food and water. Okay, so if you offer them something according to that need at that point, the chances that you'll be able to satisfy, the chances that the customer will make a decision and then buy the product is going to be so much higher, because the desperation level of satisfying that need is so much higher. Right, and then I think we finished off with how do we market services as opposed to how do we market products. So taking that into consideration, what we did in chapter 1 is we looked at different philosophies, or what is referred to as sometimes different orientations that businesses have towards marketing. We looked at the production, the product, the sales, the customer, and customer orientation is often referred to as the marketing orientation. Societal and relationship marketing orientations. Those 6 were covered in the first chapter. It is important that you understand this. I know that this is work that you have prepared for your formal test in May, but as I said yesterday, there's no chapter that's excluded from the exam paper. I checked the paper again last night just to confirm, and all the chapters are definitely covered in some way or the other in the exam. Right, the production orientation, we're going to go through each one separately. Anybody who can give me their take on what the production orientation is about, so I can determine if you understand what the concept is about? if a company has a production orientated or production philosophy towards marketing, what does it mean?
So from my understanding, it's like a company that focuses more on producing the actual products rather than caring like what the customers and stuff want. So if the business believes that its products are going to be successful, it will just produce it anyway without checking or seeing whether or not customers will even purchase the product first. They believe that it will just be purchased, so they produce it.
Yep, you're quite right. So they are more sort of internally focused and producing according to what their own capabilities and capacity is, and not really taking the customer's needs and wants into consideration, because it's a sort of a selfish and arrogant approach. But I think that again, this is an approach, that a philosophy that is not really applied by too many businesses nowadays. The whole philosophy towards marketing has evolved over a period of time. You do still, however, get some companies who, and especially you'll find this kind of production orientation. You'll find that among industries where there's a monopoly, where you can dictate the price, and you basically manufacture whatever your capacity is. I don't want to use the most obvious example, but we all know that I'm probably referring to Eskom. They're a monopoly. They definitely have a production orientation approach. They are going to manufacture and produce as much electricity as they can. Unfortunately, at the moment, that philosophy doesn't work for them, because they do not have the capacity to produce the demand or produce the demand for electricity that's that the country needs. You're 100% correct, Mika. That was a good summary of and sometimes people confuse production and product orientation. What's the difference? I mean, how's the product orientation different to the production orientation?
So
Yes.
isn't it the product orientation focuses on quality rather than quantity?
It does, yes. They differentiate themselves and say, listen, we know at the end of the day the customer needs the product, and we can be arrogant and we can just go out and produce it. But it's more important for us that we produce a quality product, because and this was the sort of first next level orientation after production orientation, if we look at it how it probably evolved chronologically, and that is to say, you know what, I know that the customer has this specific need. We're not going to just give him something that's going to satisfy that need. We're going to give that customer a product that is of great quality. It might not result in us selling to the entire market like your production orientation. They are mass market orientated. It might mean that we are going to sell a bit less, because the product is so good that it doesn't need to be replaced too regularly. But because of the quality and because of the quality that the customer experiences, the customer is going to come back. I've got no, if you apply the first philosophy, you've got no guarantee that the customer is going to return and buy again. He's going to go to McDonald's today and to Steers tomorrow and to KFC the next day, because you know what? It's 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the company who uses this kind of philosophy, because they market the specific feature that makes their product better than their competitors, and because they produce a quality product, that's what they're focusing on when they are marketing to their customers. This increases the chance of getting repeat business and eventually converting the customer into a loyal customer. The sales orientation was again a sort of a spin-off from the production orientation, where they if you are going to just keep on producing and producing without taking into consideration what the customer needs, you're going to, at a certain point, going to get to a point of saturation where you're going to keep on producing because you have the capacity to do it, but the demand is busy declining, and you're going to be left over with excess stock. When you're left over with excess stock, you are now going to adopt a very specific marketing approach, and that is to have an aggressive sales or use aggressive sales techniques to market the products. You want to get rid of the old stock because it's costing you money to store it, and maybe as a result of innovations and technology, you actually need to improve that product and get a better version out to the customers, but you can't because you're still left with too much of the old stock. This is basically the result of what happens if you apply the production philosophy. You will later on have to apply the sales philosophy or sales-orientated philosophy as well. Customer orientation or marketing orientation. I think that's the one that's most appropriate to what we deal with in this course. Anybody can tell me what the customer orientation entails? Everybody out there? Anybody that's awake still? Hello?
We are here, sir.
You just don't know the answer, or you don't want to share the answer, or you want to give somebody else a chance?
Giving the others a chance.
I would love to give the others a chance, but you know what, Jason? I actually don't like to just unmute somebody and say, listen, can you answer this question for me? Because, I mean, that's not my style. So, yeah, please, rather somebody. Thank you, Carl. Yes, we listen to the customer. Why? Because our definition says our main objective is to satisfy the customer's need. By analyzing as accurately as possible what they actually need, and then sell something to them that will satisfy that need. Many of us have products that's stored somewhere in a garage or a box or wherever in your house that you have not used for the life. I go through regularly. It's usually sort of mid-year, around about end of June, that it happens in my household. I go into my cupboards and I spring clean. I take everything out that I have not worn for the last year. Because I haven't worn it last year, I'm not going to wear it this year. Right? Why do you keep that t-shirt from grade 11? Maybe for sentimental reasons, but nothing else, because you probably don't fit into it anymore. Especially if you don't fit in it. Why you keep it? So I do that spring cleaning once a year, and everything that I haven't used, it's not just clothing. I go through my house as well. If there's something I haven't used, there's maybe an expiry date on a tube of glue, I chuck it in the bin. So I get rid of the stuff that I can't use anymore. I get rid of the stuff that I haven't used and will definitely probably not use again, or most likely not use in the near future. And then the cluttering goes away. And it's exactly the reason why this has happened with me, and it happens with all the other customers, is that they end up with products that they shouldn't have bought in the first place, or that they thought was going to satisfy their need better than they expected, and it turned out to be the opposite. And we're stuck with those things. Get rid of it. I donate it every year. Clothing, books, whatever you find. There's many charities out there that need these things. That's not the motivation for me not doing it. But you know what? If you eventually run out of space, then you have to start doing this. If businesses apply the customer orientation or philosophy or marketing philosophy more and listen to what the customer says, and then go out and produce something that will satisfy that need, they're going to hit home more often, or more often than not, because they are producing something that the customer wants. Because back to the definition at the start of the session, comes down to satisfying customers' need. This is probably the answer that you can give to about 90% of the questions that you're going to get at some point in any marketing test or exam. That's your go-to default answer. Satisfy the customer. I'm joking. It's not that easy, but it is very important, or the most important thing. We have to, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I love the fact that it is the case nowadays, but we have to consider the environment in which we live. If you've listened to the customer and you are satisfying the customer's need by producing something that they want, you also have to do it in a manner that is in the best interest for society. We cannot. We are running out of space. That's one of the main reasons why why we are battling with the pandemic to get it under control. It's just too many people to manage. If there are more people who need something, at some point we're going to run out of resources. Eskom actually is again, in this case, a good example of running out of resources because they were reliant on a specific raw material. And that raw material, because of the increase of numbers of customers needing this service, has over time been depleted. And you have to look at alternatives. And yeah, fortunately, the good news I heard in the news this morning was that the president have now confirmed that the licensing process for alternative suppliers of electricity has been reduced significantly. So the length of the process to register and get the license to produce that electricity and supply it is actually much easier, because if it's done in a shorter period, it means it's also cheaper to get that process going. Because that's if we think into the into future chapters in this module that we've done already. Remember when they are especially when we did chapter 4 on analyzing our competitors. If the barriers to enter a particular industry is very difficult, because it's a time-consuming process and because it's an expensive process, then customers suppliers are just going to stay away. It's not worth the effort. It doesn't make financial sense, and they really don't have the time. They'll try something else. So we don't want to get. We have already at this point got to the stage where the environment in which we live is under serious pressure. Companies who are who adopt a philosophy of going green, recycling things, ensuring that they cut down on the pollution, that they use better techniques, so they have a more environmentally friendly process of producing their products. These are all things that has become very important to the customer nowadays. It's not just about satisfying the customer's needs. It's also what are you doing on a larger scale for the environment. So your societal marketing orientation refers to satisfy your needs to make a profit through satisfying the needs of the customer, but also considering the long-term best interest of society, and keep that in at heart as well. Relationship marketing, it's something that I think also as a result of our customer orientation or marketing orientation has become I think a secondary philosophy that goes hand in hand. If we want to ensure that our customers keep on supporting us, or once we have secured through a customer orientation that our customers are happy because they're getting a quality product that satisfies their needs, and we retain them, we want to reward them. And your relationship marketing orientation is an approach that has been taken, or philosophy that businesses take, to ensure that they reward those customers because the spin-off from these reward or from this approach would be, again, that you want more customers, that you get more customers that want to become part of this reward system, or reward program system. So that will result in greater sales for you because you'll have more customers. And also, in addition to that, that you are seen as somebody who wants to reinvest money into the customer, who actually keeps you in business. We know that there are many programs that's out there. I think one of the main motivations for businesses adopting such programs, such loyalty reward programs, is because it costs you so much more to get a new customer. In fact, 5 times more to get a new customer than to keep a current customer happy. And who is not going to say no to a discount or a kickback, which is usually the forms that that your loyalty reward programs take on. Right, the marketing process. Quickly look at the marketing process. The marketing process includes the following. You have to understand the company's business and mission. You have to set marketing objectives. You've got to collect and analyze and interpret the information, which is the SWOT analysis, on your internal strengths and weaknesses and what the external opportunities and threats are. Develop a marketing strategy, implement that strategy, design a performance measures to ensure that you can measure if you have performed in line or achieved or exceeded the objectives that you've set in step number 2, and then obviously evaluate the results. If you haven't exceeded it, back to the drawing board. Maybe we need to redefine our objectives. Maybe we need to slightly change a strategy. Okay, that's the reason why we go through this entire process. It is good for you to know the different steps and these components of the marketing process. Where does marketing fit into a business? Now, marketing is a function that I think almost sort of affects all aspects or all departments in a business. You can manufacture the best product, but if the customers don't know about it because the marketing hasn't been done properly, you know what? Business falls flat, and the product later on just disappears. And it's a costly exercise. The 4 main functions for management in a business is that they plan, that they organize, that they lead, and control. Now, you'll find that marketing fits in mostly under the planning stage, because yes, there will be some organizing and leading and controlling happening within the marketing department, but the marketing function itself is predominantly relies on or fits into the planning, identifying the opportunities that you can satisfy. Remember, targeting the markets, the segmentation, setting the marketing objectives. What do we want to achieve? How are you going to achieve it? What particular marketing communication strategy are we going to use to communicate to our customers? Use all these marketing instruments that's available to us. That's where marketing fits into the marketing role fits into a company. We're almost done, and then we'll take a break. I know there's probably smokers that have already had a few cigarettes in the meantime. Why are there critics of marketing? Marketing the criticism is mostly targeted at the intermediaries. There are too many people involved in the process that doesn't add any value to the product. In other words, between manufacturer and customer, there are too many intermediaries involved that doesn't add any value, but just increases the price, the final price. And the role of advertising. We don't always understand exactly what the right combination is of communicating, because advertising is just one specific method of getting the message across. We are not specifically focused on identifying what the correct medium or combination of a medium or methods are to reach the customers. So we don't really understand our profiling of our customers. Have not really been that accurate. Often it just requires a very small change to the strategy, and we are back on track. But that's why this process that we have identified 2 slides ago is so important, and especially the last 2 steps where we measure how we've performed and we evaluate and act on it as well. Because if we don't take any action, nothing's going to happen. In your textbooks, you can read through the different discrepancies that marketers have to deal with. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but just read through your textbook to provide you with a sort of a background and examples of what each of them are. Why marketing plays a very important role in society? Yeah, it influences our lives every day. Yes, of course, because it gives us information to make decisions. It plays an important role in society because if marketing through specifically the societal marketing orientation focuses on satisfying the customer, but in such a way that we do not harm the environment. Without marketing, businesses would definitely fall flat because how do customers know where to get the products and what products are available? So it's a continuous process. Marketing never stops. The methods change or are modified slightly. And therefore, obviously, it provides you with a great number of career opportunities. And the reason why people sometimes frown upon marketing is because they confuse marketing with sales. Sales is just one aspect of marketing. It's a method to complete a transaction which is mutually beneficial between your company, the manufacturer, and the customer. But especially now in digital marketing, many opportunities have arisen because the platforms that customers use to access information is different. 20, 30 years ago, people were glued in front of their televisions. There were no alternative options to get the message across. They were listening to what's on the radio. They read it in the newspaper and magazines. They see it on television. Nowadays, people get the information in different places and in different ways. And that's where marketing as a career path has evolved because of the intervention of technology. And it's all for the better. Right, end of the first session of revision. I suggest we take a break. It's 11:15 now. Let's resume in 10 minutes at 11:25, if that's okay with everybody. Can I get a thumbs up? We take a break and we resume at 11:25?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, George. Smokers, go have your smokes. I'm going to end the session and reconnect. Don't worry, I haven't disappeared. It's just the best way to separate these recordings and not confuse